Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taramina, blog around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, host Twin Tomatoes on Orion Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on Local Voice on SoundCloud and those watching on Orion Television. Got a lot to talk about this week here on the podcast. We're going to break down Week 9 and also look at the playoff matchups, some really interesting matchups, how the brackets came down. Or we're going to also look at the volleyball previews as well. So first, I'd like to send my congratulations to the Troy Colts boys tennis team winning Division 1 and the Seaholm Maples boys tennis team winning Division 2. So the OAA delivered 2 state championships in the boys tennis world this past week. So really, congratulations to both the Colts and the Maples winning state championships, the first championships for the OAA this upcoming season. So in this 2025-2026 school year. So congratulations there are in order. So let's look at, of course, recapping the Week 9 games. We're gonna look at our first few games here. We're gonna start off, of course, with Clawson Royal Oak. This was a really good game. I mean, last season, of course, Royal Oak ended Clawson's playoff dreams. The Trojans said this year, you know what, you're not going to end our season like you did last year, and they did. The Trojans knocked off the Ravens 10-7. It ended up being it was really an interesting game. I mean, you really look at that game, how that went. It's a low-scoring game. Both defenses played well. Royal Oak's offense struggled in that one. Just got to give Clawson's defense a lot of credit. Clawson, they're back in the playoffs. For Royal Oak, I thought they made a lot of progress. And you really look at what progress does with the Ravens, and I think that's a big deal. For Coach Colin Campbell next year, you know what you're getting there. You're starting to build your foundation. You got some big wins. I mean, like, that's gonna be key for them going forward. So Royal Oak, you know what I mean. I'm really, real for them. I'm happy for them that they had a bounce back year. So we'll see what happens. They take the next step. So we'll see what happens. Ferndale 49, Detroit Renaissance 20. Again, good way to end the year for Coach Donovan Jackson and the Eagles. Unfortunately for them, not making the postseason, despite winning the gold championship this year. Ferndale, they got a lot to look forward to, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how Coach Donovan Jackson gets his team going forward heading into next season. So that's going to be something to really, really keep an eye on as we head forward to that. So Ferndale had a solid first year. Some playing a tough schedule, obviously. But curious to see what Coach Donovan Jackson does next year with the schedule. So it'll be something to really keep an eye on going forward with them. Chippewa Valley 35, A&T 6. For Southfield, tough schedule. Playing a tough schedule when you're playing like East Kentwood, Lowell, and then Chippewa Valley to close out for a non-conference plus the White. So when you look at the Warriors, they do lose some key players. They lose their starting quarterback. It's gonna be a big loss. So when you look at for Coach Keith McKenzie, there's gonna be, it's part of that transition period that they've been. I know 2 years ago they won a state championship, but it's part of that transition period that has to happen during the year. You got to look at the sub-varsity levels, the middle school levels, the youth levels. I mean, for A&T, does this require a move down to the blue? And I think, it'll be interesting to see how it's going to work out. But for A&T, it's going to be, they've got they still got a tough schedule next year, but I'm curious to see how A&T is going to look next season when you look at what they got coming back. So a lot of question marks to really look at with them heading forward. Brandon 55, Pontiac 12. This was the Brad Zuby Bowl. This game was at Pontiac. Um, you know, this game kind of really went as I thought it would. I thought it would gone, but I was really surprised Brandon did not make the playoffs. Really, really surprised. I mean, like they were on the cusp of making it in the playoffs in Division Four. Lake Fenton ended up getting the last spot. And they're in the postseason. Brandon's not. So it's interesting how things work. And playoff points. You know what I mean? That's what happened. And you kind of think about it is there's a lot of playoff points that matter. You know what I mean? For Pontiac, it's just another step in the process. And you really think about with them. It's just a point of the process, how you can get things, you know, set for next season. I mean, like, it's really what it is. And, that's unfortunate. But Pontiac for them, for Coach Wendell Jefferson, it's a step. It's another step, despite the record. You're seeing progress. And I think they're going to make some more progress heading into next year. So it'll be interesting to see what Pontiac looks like heading into next year. So, so they're gonna be okay. I think they're gonna be fine. Carlton Airport 24, Avondale 15. Oh boy. I mean, tough year for Avondale. Really, really tough year. Now you got questions with this team. You got some questions. You look at Avondale, and starting the year, I know a lot of excitement was there for Avondale. But you had to go through a transition period when you brought in Coach Jim Carlisle. Going to a whole new offense, going from a wing tee to a spread. I think the problems really were on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, and then you look at the schedule they had. I mean, they had to play Cedar Springs. They had to play Carlton Airport. Both those games are going to be really, really tough games, really far away games. And Avondale ended up going 1-8. I mean, that was just shocking. Really surprising they went 1-8. So now you got to look at, of course, the sub varsity levels, the middle school levels. I know they have Avondale Middle School. Then also the youth levels, and I'll be curious to see what Coach Carlisle does next year. It's gonna be his second year, but there's gonna have to be some changes there. With Avondale, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that's really where the change is going to have to be made. So I think it's going to be something to really keep an eye on with them. So Avondale's a team I'm watching. Yes, they got Brian Collins coming back. But it's going to be interesting to see how Avondale looks heading into next year. I mean, like they do got a lot coming back, which will help. But I'll be curious to see how Coach Carlisle handles his spread offense, and I think that's really something to really keep an eye on going forward there. Masonite's Lampier 24, Berkeley 3. I was surprised Berkeley. I was really surprised Berkeley couldn't score against Lampier. Really surprised. Yes, Lampier's a good team, well coached under Coach Roy Ozorowski, but I was surprised. I mean, like, they had a big win against Jackson Northwest. They had a really nice year. And then to play like this against Lampier, just disappointing for Coach Casey Humes. But you look at with Berkeley, I mean, they made significant progress, and I think that's really where the improvement has to be at. And you think about it, they made strides, they made gains. I mean, you kept the Battle of Woodward Trophy, you knocked off Avondale. That's a big deal. The only league loss he had was to Ferndale. You were in that playoff conversation. But you had some tough losses early in the year. And then of course it's lost to Masonite's Lampier. So there's a lot to like with Berkeley heading into next year. Can they take the next step? That's the big question going forward with them. Troy Athens 40, Fraser 7. Good way for Athens to come out with a win against Fraser. I know the Ramblers have a new coach, new system, new scheme, new transition period coming up. You really think about with Athens is you kind of think about with them is with the Red Hawks, the changeover in the offensive side of the ball, had a new coach, new offensive coordinator. Defense was your biggest problem all year. Defense was your biggest problem all year. You look at a team like Frazier, who had to go through a transition period, new staff, new everything. So for Troy Athens, it's just taking the next step. Taking the next step is going to be their challenge this offseason. That's going to be their challenge. Of course, for Frazier, it's just second year. Second year coming up, new staff. Can they keep that? And they had to go through a transition period, which had to happen during the year. Same thing with Athens. They had to go through that transition period. Had to happen during the year. So, for Athens, it's just a step in the right direction. I don't know how it's going to handle for Coach Tom Cook, but, it's a start heading in the right direction. That's really my take on that with Athens. Saline 49, Lake Orion 14. You just got to Lake Orion's had a really, really rough year. Really rough. And you look at, yes, they played a tough schedule. Yes, they've had injuries. A lot of those, injuries are hard to overcome. But, Lake Orion normally is a deep team. They're normally deep, So, running into Saline, of course, we know the Hornets are a buzzsaw. We know that. They start off down 35-0. This season for Lake Orion football was really difficult. Really difficult. And you look at the offseason, now you got to start, I'll be curious to see how Lake Orion does this offseason, because this is a big offseason for the Dragons. And it's not just the varsity levels. It's the sub-varsity levels, middle school levels, youth levels. It's a big offseason. There's going to have to be changes. 1-8 in a town like Lake Orion is very rare. It is. It is very rare. And yes, playing a tough schedule, but still, there's going to be some question marks. There's going to be a lot of what ifs. But you look at next year for Lake Orion, they return their starting quarterback. You're going to have a running back back. One of your top wide receivers is back. The big question is the defensive side of the ball. Because if you look at Lake Orion, that's going to be the key. Lake Orion's defense is going to be the key heading into next year. It's going to be the key. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens with them, but it's a big offseason for Lake Orion. And something to really, really watch for this offseason. This is a big, big offseason for the Dragons. See what direction they go heading into the next season and then for the years ahead. So it'll be something to really keep an eye on with them going forward. Okay, let's look at Clarkson 42, Utica Eisenhower, nothing. Bowman Twins had a big day. Defense played well. Clarkson's legit. We're going to talk their playoff match in a minute, but Clarkson looks the part. They really do. They look the part. And the fact their JV and freshman teams went undefeated, and their sub-varsities and their lower levels, their middle school levels had a great year too. They're built for now and the future. That's what Clarkson is right now. They're built for the now and built for the future. We're going to see what happens, but I'm telling you, Clarkson, they look good. They look good right now. Postseason matchups could be something to keep an eye on, though. We'll see. Farmington 40, Crestwood 0. Farmington, nice way for their seniors to go out with a win. getting ready for the postseason. This would be really interesting to see what Farmington does in the postseason. But they're clicking on all cylinders again. I mean, they clicked on all cylinders against Dearborn Crestwood. So we'll see what happens going forward. We're gonna see what happens. West Bloomfield 28, Roseville 7. Lakers defense. If the way this team plays defensively, they can play with anybody. If they play defense like they're capable of, they're gonna play with anybody. They could even play with Novi Detroit Catholic Central. Still, they got a tough matchup in the postseason looming. We're going to talk about that playoff match in a minute. But West Bloomfield, they got athletes. They're going to be forced to reckon with. We'll see how that goes. Oak Park 34, Bloomfield Hills 28. Good way to end the year for Coach Greg Carter. The loss of Lake Orion really hurt their playoff chances. Oak Park, they found a way. I mean, offensively, they were clicking. For Bloomfield Hills, offensively, they were solid offensively. Defensively, struggled a little bit. I'll be curious to see what Coach Scott Merchant does this offseason. Well, I'm curious to see how both coaches will do this offseason, Coach Greg Carter and Scott Merchant. I think, it's going to be interesting to see what divisions they're going to be in, how they match up. It'll be interesting to see how both sides do this offseason. So I think it'll be interesting to see how both these teams look this offseason. North Farmington 42, Troy 7. North Farmington, of course, offensively looked good. Defensively, they were solid all year. I feel really bad for them. The way I feel bad for them, especially in the postseason. So we're going to see what happens there. Troy, offensively, they were red hot first 3 weeks, and then they ran into some really tough competition, really tough buzzsaws. And look what happened. Couldn't score, gave a lot of points defensively. Really struggled. So, a lot of questions next year for Troy. How that's going to look for them next year. A lot of questions. Rochester in the postseason, back in the postseason, winning 42-6 over Monroe. Rochester, last 3 weeks offensively, has really gotten it going. Defensively, they've really shut people down, which has been good for them. They did just enough to earn a playoff trip. And that's huge for Coach Eric Vernon to have those extra days of practice, which is going to be huge for the program going forward. So Rochester, they're in a good spot right now. They're in a good spot. So we'll see what happens. Harper Woods surviving a scare against Mason 21-17. Got to give the Bulldogs defense credit. Keeping a high-octane offense like Harper Woods to 21 points. So, for me, I do got some concerns with Harper Woods concerning their ground attack. Obviously, we know they like to throw the ball a lot. And, for Harper Woods, they've got to find their ground attack if they want to make some noise in the playoffs in Division 4. I know they got a really nice pass, but, they got to find their ground attack. And if you're Coach Rob Owen, that's really what it is, finding your ground attack. That'll be key for them going forward. So, we'll see what happens with them. But they're in a really nice spot in D4, so we're going to preview that in a couple minutes. Stony Creek 35, Ann Arbor Huron 14. Cougars kept the River Rats out of the playoffs. For Stony Creek, they're riding a lot of confidence. They had a nice win in Ann Arbor. Give Coach Rick Powell a lot of credit. Done a really nice job with that program. He's built that foundation back, and he's got Stony Creek to be where they need to be. So that'll be something to keep an eye on going forward there with them. So it'll be something to keep an eye on. Adams 35, Anchor Bay 14. Of course, nice performance from Ryland Waters. Offense kept clicking on all cylinders, keeping the Tars offense to 14 points. That's what the Veer does. So Adams riding into the postseason with a lot of confidence. So that'll be something to keep an eye on with them going forward there with them. Groves 21, Seahome 14. Good game. Always is a good game when Groves and Seahome plays. Excuse me. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if these two teams meet again in the playoffs. It really wouldn't. But Groves did just enough, especially with how young they were to start the year. I mean, this was a very young team to start the year, and they found ways to turn things around, and they've been playing good football. Been playing really good football. Seahome, I think they're going to be fine. I know they've struggled a little bit, but you know what the Veer does, and we know that it's going to be fine. So we'll see what happens. Game of the day, I think, was Oxford 24, Macomb, Dakota 20. Oxford going into Dakota and winning that game, that says a big deal. That's a big, big win for Oxford. Huge win for Oxford. And you think about with them, the way they were at, start the year. I mean, a lot of people had questions with Oxford, considering how they had replaced their senior class. I mean, they've had some good wins this year. I mean, they beat Lake Orion, they beat West Bloomfield, beat Heartland. Now you put this on Macomb, Dakota. I mean, says a lot where Oxford's at. They've been battle tested, and and also it describes the resiliency of the Wildcats. I mean, they've been really resilient all year long, and that says a lot to Coach Trevor Potts' team since he took over for Coach Jack Line. I mean, it says a lot. So you got to like where they're at right now. You got to like where Oxford's at heading in the postseason. So we'll see what happens there with them. And then our last game, Waterford Kettering 45. Waterford Mott 45, Waterford Kettering 8. Kettering, obviously, they got a lot of work to do this offseason. Not sure how the staff's going to look, but there's a lot of questions with Waterford Kettering this offseason. For Waterford Mott, it's just getting ready for the postseason. I mean, taking back the Sale Trophy. Obviously that's a big deal for them. But now for them, it's postseason time, and I think that'll be something to really keep an eye on as we head into the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Now let's look at the football matchups in the playoffs. Of course, the MHA announced the playoffs on Sunday. I know a lot of people didn't get a chance to watch. I know it was on the NFHS Sports Network. And then I know even though they had a free app and all that, but still, it's going to be, there's some interesting matchups. I was a little surprised with some of the districts, how they were announced. And I think it's something to really, really watch for when you look at the postseason. So let's start with our first bracket. This is in Division 4. And you look at Division 4 and you say to yourself, okay, I thought early on that Harper Woods was going to be in a district. And of course, we have one OAA team in here, and that's Harper Woods. Harper Woods, I think when you look at the matchups with them, you look at, obviously, with the Pioneers. And they had those wins at Clarkston, at Saline. Those are two big wins. That gave Harper Woods the most playoff points. It really did. It gave them the most playoff points. So you kind of look at the map and you say to yourself, excuse me here for a minute. I mean, like I've been like having to deal with the map here as I deal with the map. But I'm saying to Harper Woods is those two wins really gave them an opportunity. When you look at the map, I wasn't surprised that with Harper Woods, that they were going to get a number 1 seed. The region was surprising to me a little bit, but I thought they would go more north. But instead, Harper Woods is going to be in a region where they're going to head west. And the good news for Pioneers fans is you don't have to leave. You don't even have to leave Harper Woods, because you look at that match. You got Macomb Lutheran North in the first round. That should be an interesting matchup, because you look at Macomb Lutheran North. They play in the Catholic League. They haven't played the schedule Harper Woods has. And And then if Harper Woods were to win that, you're looking at either Centerline or Chandler Park. That should be another win for Harper Woods if they get that matchup. I don't think neither team matches up with them pretty well. Then you're setting yourself up for likely, possibly Dearborn Devon Child coming to Harper Woods. And you look at that scenario there. Depending if they get by Tecumseh, which they should get by Tecumseh, Massachusetts, Lampier, and Redford Union look to be very interesting matchups. Harper Woods knocked off Redford Union week 1. They knocked them off week 1. They blew out Redford Union. So if it's Redford Union, I would not be afraid if I'm Coach Rob Oden taking on Dearborn Devon Child in the region. I wouldn't be afraid. I really wouldn't. Now you look at that possible state semifinal clash. They could clash with either Goodrich or Chelsea or Williamston or Hazlitt. You know what I mean? Those are 4 teams that Harper Woods could see. I mean, Williamston we know is a very good team. Hazlitt we know is a good team. I know their coach Brian Thomas very well. Brad Thomas very well. Goodrich and Chelsea in a district final. Oh boy, that's possible. And then Williamston and Hazlitt in a district final, and then those 2 teams clashing in a regional. Oh boy. And imagine if Williamston and Goodrich had to play one another, 2 undefeated teams. That game would be at Williamston. So that's going to be really, really interesting. And for Harper Woods, Harper Woods is sitting real nice right now. They are sitting real nice in Division 4 right now. Sitting really nice. So if you're Coach Oden, I like your chances in this district. I really do. I think you can get to Ford Field. I really do. I think Harper Woods has a great chance to get to Ford Field if things go right. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some interviews with Coach Oden in the next couple weeks talking about the Pioneers' path in the playoffs. I mean, we do a lot of these call-ins for the playoffs. Probably start that next week, so it'll be something to really keep an eye on as we head into the playoffs. So, Harper Woods, I like their chances in Division 4. Yes, they're going to have to deal with Dearborn Devon Child in the regional if they get there. And then looking at the possibility of either Williamston, Goodrich, Chelsea, or Hazlitt in the state semis. I mean, that could really well happen. I mean, it's not an easy path. Region 3 and Division 4 is not an easy path. But for Harper Woods, their path, I like their district path. I think in the regional, they're probably going to get Dearborn Devon Child. Now, Massachusetts Lambert could upset them. It wouldn't surprise me if they do upset them. But I think for Harper Woods and Coach Oden, that's a really, really good pass. And for them, for the district and regional rounds, those teams mentioned, except for the top 4 in the state semifinal with Williamston, Goodrich, Chelsea, or Hazlitt. I mean, Dearborn Devon Child would have to go to Harper Woods. Harper Woods' first game's at home, and then their second game would be at home. So, like I said, everything goes through Beaconsfield Street. So, and that's really what it's looking like with Harper Woods, their path. So that'll be something to really, really keep an eye on with them. So now let's go to Division 2. This is an interesting region. I think this is Region 2. You look at Division 2 and you say to yourself, okay, I said to myself last week that Waterford Mott would have to play. Waterford Mott could play Midland Dow. And they made a weird district. They made a really, really weird district to where you have Waterford Mott, Midland Dow, Lakeland, and East Lansing. They made a more northern-like district. So there was a possibility that Coach Trajan's saying Waterford Mott would go north. And I said to myself, okay, if Waterford Mock goes north to Midland to play Midland Dow, that is a perfect matchup for them. Because Midland Dow, their only loss of the year was to Mount Pleasant. And Waterford Mock's played a tougher schedule in Lake Valley Conference. They have. So you look at that match and you say to yourself, okay, that's a good matchup for Coach Trajan Say. Really good matchup for them. I think the key is going to be the travel per se, because you know how you go northbound on I-75 to you got to go I-75 to US 10 to Midland. I do have another suggestion for Waterford Mott. Take M15. Take M15. You go up there to M25, make a left, go on to US 10. But I think the key for Waterford Mott in that game is, what time are they leaving? What time are they leaving? If they leave the earlier, the better. Because you look at that matchup, you look at the travel, it's going to be a nightmare. And you're going to have people want to get home real quick after a long day of work, getting ready for trick-or-treating. Because these games are on Halloween. So it's going to be interesting to see if your Coach Trajan Say, if you're Waterford Mott, if you leave at a really good time, I would say maybe around 3:30, 4 o'clock, or heck, even earlier, 3 o'clock. Negates the travel advantage, and I think it'll help them big time. I think it would help a team like Waterford Mott big time, going that far north up to Midland. Maybe even do some team bonding up there. I think they should do some team bonding up there. If they do that, then it negates the travel advantage. You can have your team dinner there. You can go over game planning up there. But if you leave at a time 4 o'clock, that could be a problem. Because you know how traffic is up there. So if your Coach Trajan Say, the earlier you get to Midland, the better you are. So, and the other side, you got East Lansing and Lakeland. Mott would love another chance at Lakeland after losing 23-21 earlier in the year. Mott would love a chance at playing Lakeland. They would love that. But East Lansing, it's a tougher matchup for them. It'll be a tough game. East Lansing, we know, it's been solid. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes. But for Waterford Mott, they get Midland Dow. Travel's the key in that matchup. I know Dow's a solid team, but I think Waterford Mott's played a tougher schedule. So we'll see how that goes. Then let's look at, in this region, North Farmington. Oh boy. They get Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Last year was a 42-7 blowout at Ron Holland. The Eaglets, they're still strong. They're still a very good team. North's got some experience as well. But this is going to be a really difficult matchup for North Farmington. Whoever wins that matchup is going to get Wall Lake Western or Birmingham Brother Rice. I'm telling you, it would not surprise me if this district final is Orchard Lake St. Mary's Birmingham Brother Rice. It really wouldn't surprise me. For North to have a chance, they have to play time possession football. Don't give Orchard Lake St. Mary's the ball. Don't even do it. If you have to, just punt the ball. Play conservative football. If you're going to play a game of attack and nothing to lose, okay. But you can't get into a track meet with St. Mary's, or you're in trouble. You just can't. That spells trouble. This is a tough matchup for Coach John Hurston. This is a really, really difficult matchup. They have to stay disciplined, too. Because in that Oxford game, they were not disciplined. They were not disciplined at all. And that's why they lost that game to Oxford. So that's going to be a tough matchup for North Farmington. Really difficult matchup. Then let's go to Region 4 here. Groves takes on Warren Mott. This and this side of the bracket, I was expecting that this would be the matchup. Warren Mott, we know they're okay. I don't think they're as strong as they've been, but Groves, we know this year they've had a young group. Last year they had a lot of experience and went to state semifinals. Could they make a deep run? Could they threaten Grosse Pointe South? Sure they can. I think they can go into Grosse Pointe South and win. I really think they can go and beat Grosse Pointe South. I really do. If they meet. But if Groves knocks off Warren Mott, they're guaranteed at least 2 home games. Because the winner of Seaholm and Warren Cousino would have to go to Beverly Hills. So, yeah, Groves, the way they've been playing really well as of late. Dangerous team. This is a really, really dangerous team. So we'll see what happens. On the other side, you have Seaholm and Warren Cousino. I know Warren Cousino's got a really good quarterback. I know they got a good quarterback. But I don't think the Patriots have seen a veer like what they're going to see with Seaholm. There's not a lot of teams in the Macomb area conference that run the veer. And Coach Jim DeWalt is one of the runs the veer very, very well. We know the master of the veer is over at Rochester Adams. So we look at this matchup and you think about Seaholm's been struggling as of late. They've been really, really struggling. I know they've lost to North Farmington. They lost to Farmington. Then they lost to Adams, and then lost to Grove. They've lost 4 games. I think they've lost 4 of the last 5 games. Not a good way to get in the playoffs. Hang in the playoffs. It's not a good way. So that's a difficult matchup right there. Cousino's got a good quarterback. Really good quarterback. So that's going to be interesting to see how that one goes. So I expect it to be a good game between the Maples and the Patriots. I think it'll be a really good game. We'll see what happens. Then the Division 1. Let's go with Region 4 to start off here. This is where Farmington's in. Farmington takes on Dearborn Forest, and this will be at Falcon Field. I know a lot of people have been saying to me about Dearborn Forest, and they got a new coach. They've been through a transition period. They got a new system. They somehow got in. Farmington has been rolling. They've got a lot of confidence right now. They are staring at. You look at in that region, in that side of the district, and you look at whoever wins that game is either playing Northville or Detroit Cass Tech. If you're Coach Brent Luplow at Northville, you gotta be so upset with the MHA right now. You have to be upset with them. Was that loss at Novi that bad for you? Because it looked like with the way that game went with Northville and Novi in the Battle of 8 Mile, that trophy, that did more to damage Northville than it already had. Because now if you're Coach Brent Luplow, you're saying to yourself, okay, you're thinking about maybe going west, maybe seeing a Brighton in the first round, to having to play Detroit Cass Tech in the first round. Oh boy. And if you're Coach Jason Albrecht of Farmington, you thought about maybe possibly playing West Bloomfield in the first round, but instead, you get sent south. You get sent southeast. You get Dearborn Fortson first. The good news is Fortson's coming to your place. Not sure where Farmington TV. I'm not sure where Farmington TV 10 is going to be at. They could be at a playoff game this year. They could be. But for Farmington, I like this matchup because of the athletes that they have. They have Pesha quarterback. Anthony Bailey, the way he's been playing all year. They got athletes everywhere. Fortson, yes, they played a tough schedule. But I just think, you look at this game here, I think athletically, I think it favors Farmington. But we'll see what happens. We're going to see how that one goes. Then let's go to Region 2, District 1. This is Brighton taking on West Bloomfield. Whoever wins this one's likely staring at nobody Detroit Catholic Central. And that's a tough one. Because I think CC's going to get by Heartland pretty easily. This is a trap game for West Bloomfield. I know my good friend Tyler Keith at Civic Center TV is going to be talking a lot about this game. But West Bloomfield better beware of Brighton's physicality. When they play teams that are physical, they tend to struggle. We can ask Clarkson that question. We can ask Oxford that question. I mean, you look at West Bloomfield, we know Brighton's physical. West Bloomfield's very athletic. I don't think Brighton's seen a defense like they're going to see with West Bloomfield. But it also depends how West Bloomfield's defense operates. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Lakers do offensively, how Jackson Carver handles this offensively. Could it be the key for him's running the ball? I mean, could they use a couple of their two-way guys like Will Espy? I mean, that's going to be key. Or Jamal Shakespeare. Jamal Shakespeare's the key to this whole game. I mean, they're as good as Shakespeare takes. I thought in the game against Roseville, West Bloomfield had some moments they were very undisciplined. That's something for Coach Jack Hilbers. You better watch carefully. Because you got to be disciplined in that game. You have to be disciplined. We'll see how that goes. Winner staring at nobody Detroit Catholic Central right in the face. Then you have, let's go back on the other side of the bracket. Adams and Rochester. Rochester gets back in the playoffs. They get another opportunity at Adams. Last time these two teams met, 31-3 in favor of Adams. Adams has won 29 straight games against Rochester. Last win for the Falcons over the Highlanders was 1996. I mean, I could talk to my co-host Ian Locke about this. Because this is going to be an interesting game. It'd be more interesting at the other side. Because that could be really interesting. Stony Creek and Utica Eisenhower. That's who the winner of this game faces. Rochester's got a chance here. I think they got a shot. But they're going to have to play well. But also they're going to have Adams make some mistakes. Big mistakes. When you look at that side of the bracket in D1, I mean, Adams has a great shot, I think, to get to Ford Field. I think they match up well with Detroit Cast Tech. I really do. DeVere takes care of a lot of problems. I think Adams has a chance to get the Final Four. Maybe even Ford Field. That's how much I like with Adams. It should be an interesting game. Rivalry games, always there. Now you look at the other one. Stony Creek, Utica Eisenhower. Two teams separated by 5 miles. Now, albeit, Utica Eisenhower plays their games at Swinehart. But this is a rivalry. You look at all the other sports. You look at girls basketball. It is starting to become a rivalry between the Eagles and Cougars. We know. We know what happened in girls basketball last year. We know the controversy. You look at this matchup here. Utica Eisenhower, we know they got the prestige. We know what they got. But this is not a same Utica Eisenhower team that's been in years past. I mean, they got whooped by Clarkson last week. Then they got, 2 weeks ago, they were upset by Lakeview. They were upset by Lakeview. 30-27. Still can't believe that one. Stony Creek's been a team that's been on a mission. They've got a lot of confidence. This is a dangerous football team. Stony Creek is a team that's on an upward trajectory. It would not surprise me if Stony Creek beats the Utica Eisenhower. It would not surprise me. It's a tough match for Eisenhower. Ike does not have the same type team they've had in years past. Stony Creek's got an offense. I mean, Rose Telegatis has had a nice year for Stony Creek. They got pass catchers. Their quarterback placement's out. Their defense has been really good. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. I know these are two neighborhood rivals. So it'll be really interesting to see how this one goes. So it'll be an interesting game right there. Then we have Oxford at Grand Blanc. I really feel bad for Trevor Potts and the Wildcats. They got sentenced. They got screwed over by the MHA. They just knocked out Macomb, Dakota. You had the 6th most playoff points in Division I, and yet you get sentenced to go play Grand Blanc, who's unbeaten in the first round, has a really good quarterback in Morrow. I mean, it's difficult. And last season, these two teams played. Grand Blanc won 29-7 over Oxford in the district final last season. Grand Blanc's got a very dangerous offense. Oxford's got a lot of guys who go two ways. That's not a good omen. That is not a good omen for Oxford. But they got a chance. They're going to have to play well. Jack Hendrick's going to have to play well. Whoever wins that game is either going to get Clarkston or Davison. And that's our last match we're talking about here. Clarkston against Davison. You look at this matchup, and you look at, of course, these two. Clarkson's won the 4 last 5 meetings, 3 of them in the postseason. Davison, we know, is well coached under Coach Jacob Wiggers and their defensive coordinator and former Waterford mock coach Chris Farr. So you look at this matchup here, and you say to yourself, okay, I said to my friends in Clarkston a couple weeks ago that the worst thing to happen to Clarkston is if Davison's in your district or if Grand Blanc is in your district. Both teams are in your district. Or if Novi Detroit Catholic Central's in your region. They're in the region. So, the good news for Clarkston is, if you have to play all 3 of them have to come to Clarkston. At least you don't have to go on the road. You have the Bowman twins. That helps a lot. The key is going to be, can Alex Wachenko, can he throw the football? That's going to be the key. Davison, we know, they got a good quarterback. Rushing attack is solid. You really can't judge him for what they did to Lapeer last week. They hammered Lapeer 44-0 last week. Clarkson's a different animal. Clarkson's defense has been better. But you look at, if Clarkson can get by Davison, you're likely staring at Grand Blanc. If Grand Blanc played Clarkson, and I think if Grand Blanc played Clarkson, that's a tough match for Clarkson. It really is. Because Grand Blanc's offense is really, really lethal. There's a reason why they're 9-0. Now, what helps is Clarkson's played a tough schedule. So has Oxford. Oxford's played a tougher schedule, too, than Grand Blanc. So that gives Oxford a chance against them in that game. It gives them a chance. For Clarkston, they should get by Davis. They should. If they don't, and this is an upset, then there's going to be questions for Coach Justin Pintar's team. But you look at Clarkston, it's a tough pass. But the good news is all three of the teams that, you're going to have to deal with, either Davison, Grand Blanc, or nobody Detroit Catholic Central, hypothetically, have to all come to Clarkston. So we'll see what happens. So that's the playoff matchups. We're going to keep an eye on all of them heading in. Boys State Soccer semifinals. Clarkson's in there playing Portage Central at Lansing Eastern. Also, Troy Athens taking on Ann Arbor Huron at Troy. Those are going to be really interesting matchups. Clarkson got by nobody Detroit Catholic Central. Taking on Portage Central. I think it's a game Clarkson can win. I really do. They got a good chance. Then Troy Athens taking on Ann Arbor Huron. That'd be at Troy. Troy doesn't have to leave the city limits of Troy. I mean, they had their district and regional all at Troy Athens. I mean, they knocked out their arch rival Troy 3-1 in the regional final. Ann Arbor Huron, obviously the River Rats, knocked off Etzel Ford. I think it wouldn't surprise me if Clarkson took on Troy Athens for the state final. It really wouldn't surprise me. Should be a really interesting game. Then we look at volleyball. Of course, in volleyball, a 5-team district. A versus B, winner plays the 2 seed, C versus the 1 seed. They do the alphabetical stuff. Happy that they got rid of that in basketball. 6-team A versus B, winner plays the 2. C versus D, winner plays the top seed. Let's start off with District 58. This will be at Macomb Lutheran North. This is volleyball district we're talking about here. We got Almont versus Armada. That winner's taking on Macomb Lutheran North. Then Pontiac versus Notre Dame Prep. Top matchup here for Pontiac taking on the Fighting Irish. We know how Coach Becky Wervel's been with that program. Proven powerhouse will be a tall order for Pontiac. I see Notre Dame Prep winning that district. District 58. District 55 be at Detroit Osborne. Detroit Denby versus Detroit East English. That winner's taking on Harperwood Chandler Park Academy. Then you have Detroit Osborne versus Detroit Southeastern. That winner's taking on Harper Woods. So Harper Woods has got a fair chance here in this. Harperwood Chandler Park has to be the favorite. But it could be interesting. I think it could be really tight. I mean, could Harper Woods win this district? Absolutely. They got a great chance to win this district. So I think Harper Woods, they're more than capable. But it'd be interesting if they have to play Detroit Osborne on their home court. That could be very tricky. But I just think this is looking like it's going to be a Harperwood Chandler Park Academy versus Harper Woods district final. I think that could be where I'm leaning toward in that district. District 30 is at Avondale. Avondale versus Rochester. That winner's taking on Utica Eisenhower. Adams versus Stony Creek. That should be a fun matchup. That would surprise me. That game goes 5. That winner's taking on Romeo. I would have to give Utica Eisenhower the early edge here because of the experience. And they won a district last year. Stony Creek and Adams could be really interesting. It would not surprise me that game goes 5. And whoever wins that game could knock off Romeo. Avondale taking on Rochester. Avondale being at home helps things. But, Rochester's been solid this year in the red. So it could be really interesting to see how this one goes. But when I look at that district here, I just think Utica Eisenhower, the way that they are. Romeo's a tough out. Adams, Stony Creek, those teams are going to be a tough out. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I just think Utica Eisenhower right now has the early edge in that district. District 29 at Oxford. We got Lake Orion versus Waterford Kettering. That winner's taking on Oxford. Then Waterford Mott takes on Clarkston. Lake Orion basically got sentenced here, being the third, being the A team here in this district because of their tough schedule. They ran the Birmingham Detroit Country Day and got swept. We know how good the Yellow Jackets are. They should get by Waterford Kettering. I mean, Kettering's really struggled all year in the Lakes Valley. So is Waterford Mott. Then it sets up Lake Orion versus Oxford, which that could be an interesting game. But I just think that Lake Orion with the they play in the red. Oxford won the white this year. I know it's on Oxford's home court. You know the emotion's going to be high in that one. But I just think Lake Orion should win that one. And that sets up the date with Clarkston. We know how good Clarkston is. He went 4 games with them. I know Lake Orion's beaten Clarkston early in the year, but Clarkston's really played better as of late. So it could go either way, but until then, I gotta trust Clarkston here, winning this district. So it'll be something to really keep an eye on going forward there. District 27 at Troy Athens. We got Seaholm versus Blue Hills, Cranbrook Kingswood. That winner's taking on Birmingham Marion. Troy versus Troy Athens. That winner's taking on Bloomfield Hills. This is really honestly setting up to be the Miss Volleyball candidate. I think it's Caitlin Nalaji. Going up against Birmingham Marion. Well-coached program under Coach Mazza Cook. I just see Birmingham Marion winning this district. I really do. I just think that team game favors the Mustangs. I know the Blackhawks are going to likely have the Miss Volleyball candidate, the Miss Volleyball winner in Milwaukee. I know they had a big one against Clarkson. They won the red this year. But I just think it's going to be too much Birmingham Marion. Now, I'd be shocked if Bloomfield Hills did pull up the upset against Birmingham Marion. I'd be really, really shocked if that happened. If they pull off that upset, then maybe they can make a run. So, we'll see how that one goes. District 26 is at A&T here. We got Berkeley versus Royal Oak. That one is taking on Oak Park. And A&T versus Groves. I think the winner, Berkeley Royal Oak, will get to the district final. I think it wouldn't surprise me that one goes 5. Groves, I think they're the favorite here in this one. I think it'll be interesting to see, but I know they got A&T having to play at A&T. I think Groves, when I look at them, I think they're going to be, I would say Groves the early favorite, but I can't count out Royal Oak or Berkeley. I just think that that's how this district's going to look. Could A&T pull off an upset? Absolutely. I mean, they're more than capable of pulling off an upset. So we'll see how that one goes. District 24 is at Livonia Stevenson. We got Farmington versus Livonia Churchill. That one is taking on Mercy. Livonia Stevenson, Redford Thurston. That one is taking on Novi. I look at this matchup here and I say to myself, okay, this is looking like it's going to be Farmington's Mercy versus Novi. Both these teams are proven powerhouses. Could Livonia Stevenson pull off an upset? Absolutely they can. It's on their home floor. I mean, that's really where you think about, having home court advantage. That's going to help. It's going to help you in the postseason. So I really am looking at, Novi has to be an upset alert. I still don't think anybody's touching the Marlins. I like Coach Loretta Vogel, what she's done with that team. They don't really have the talent they've had in years past, but they're still very good, very well coached under Coach Vogel. So I really think Farmington's Mercy is going to come out of that district, and I think they're going to win that district. So we'll see what happens there with them. And then our last district is District 22. It's going to be at Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Wall Lake Central versus Wall Lake Western. That winner's taking on North Farmington. And then Orchard Lake St. Mary's versus West Bloomfield. This is basically going to be, I think North Farmington will get there to the district final, but I think they're going to run to Orchard Lake St. Mary's, and we know how good the Eaglets are. They're well coached. Coach Ross Talbot, formerly at Stony Creek, he's done a really good job with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. They're talented. They're well coached. It's going to be a tall order for anybody in that district who can knock off Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I mean, anytime you have home court and you're having to deal with the Catholic power like these teams in that district are going to have to deal with, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very challenging. So, And I just think Orchard Lake St. Mary's is going to win that district. So we'll see what happens. All right, baby, I'm going to sign off here. Make sure you follow the blog at sagamay4650 at blogspot.com for latest information around the OAA. Also, for picks and all that and all the content around the OAA at weebly.com for latest information around the OAA. All right, I'm going to sign off here. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next week. Take care. God bless.